In this video, we're going to be talking about if there's going to be a Super Mario 3D Land Deluxe, 5 things that we're going to want in that port, and some problems that I might have porting that over to the Switch. So let's get started. What's up guys, it's me Drew, and I actually made this video yesterday. I spent like the entire week writing a script for it, but then I ended up sounding like the Watch Mojo guy, so I didn't want to do that. Number 5, patch the infinite lives glitch. So I decided to just remake it but without the script, and so I hope it's a lot better than that because yeah, it sounds super weird. So this video is pretty much just going to be split up into 3 different parts. So the first part is going to be kind of like a top 5 thing where I talk about 5 different things that I really want to see if they port this game to the Switch. And the next thing is going to be problems that they would have bringing it to the Switch and just different things like that. It would have to change if they wanted to put the game on Switch, so they couldn't just leave it exactly the same. And the third section will be, will this game actually be ported to the Switch? So let's get started with the top 5 things that I'd like to see. So number 5 would be patch the infinite lives glitch. So this, a lot of people like it and I think it's supposed to be in the game, but I actually found it really annoying. Because sort of what happens is you can just do that in the second level of the entire game, and when you do that you pretty much don't have to do any other like work for the entire game. So that pretty much removes all of the challenge from the game. So I wouldn't recommend doing that, but like it's there, so a lot of people are going to do it anyway, so I think that they should just edit the levels to remove that, just so that it has a bit more challenge, because if they have the option, people are going to take it, so I think they should remove that. Number 4, they should add multiplayer to the game. So in Super Mario 3D World, they had this multiplayer, but for some reason they just didn't have it in 3D Land, which like they have Luigi, so I'm kind of not sure why they didn't do that. I guess it's kind of a good update that they could add. If they put multiplayer in it, then that would make it a lot more fun, but the problem is these levels weren't designed for multiplayer the same way that the 3D World levels were, so that could be like a really big issue because they could be like not as good levels because it's just not made for that. So they could test it out and maybe see if all the levels work in multiplayer, and maybe if some of them don't, they could tweak them. But I think a lot of people would really like to see 4-player multiplayer or something like that, where they bring all the characters from 3D World over. I think that would be a cool idea. Number 3, they should make it so you don't have to beat the game again with Luigi. So I kind of see why they did this, because they want you to be able to beat the game with every single character because they are slightly different. So to fully complete the game, you'd actually have to like be able to do it with all the characters, but that doesn't really add much to the game. And if all the characters are balanced like they're supposed to be, then that would be sort of a bad idea, because then you have to beat the game with characters that are supposedly like balanced with each other, even though I know like Peach is one of the easier characters that you can pick. So I think that if they made the characters more balanced, like maybe make Peach's jump not as high so she still has that flutter thing, I think that could be a pretty cool idea. So they could make it balanced, then you don't have to replay the game so many times. So you just have to maybe get the gold flagpoles and all of the star coins. Yeah, that's really all I have to say about that. So number 2, they should add new stages from other games. So if you take a look at Captain Toad Treasure Tracker that they ported from the Wii U to the Switch, and they also ported it to the 3DS. In that game, they just added the Super Mario Odyssey levels, which was pretty cool. And I think they could do something similar in the 3D Land port if they make one. But there's kind of an issue with that, and that's that they're probably making a Super Mario 3D World port, and if they make a 3D World port, they would want to have the Odyssey levels in that. And I also think they might make Odyssey 2. I don't know where I heard that, I just kind of think it's true. But yeah, if they make Odyssey 2 and they make a 3D World port, they'll probably put Odyssey 2 levels in the 3D World port instead of 3D Land. So because I feel like 3D World port would sell better and stuff, so they would probably do that. So that's kind of why I don't think they would actually include Odyssey, but they could include something like 64. That kind of sounds weird, but like since it's the 35th anniversary, they're kind of bringing back a lot of the older games. Like they might possibly remaster 64 and Sunshine, so if they added those types of levels based around the Super Mario 64 levels to Super Mario 3D Land, then like I think that would be a cool idea, and it would actually like maybe make people want to buy a Super Mario 64 remake if they enjoyed those levels. So now on to number 1. So I think that they should add more original bosses, because if you've ever actually played 3D Land, you've probably noticed there's only like 3 or 4 bosses or something like that. So there's Boom Boom, Pom Pom, Bowser, There's like fake Bowsers, but they're just Bowser and they turn into something else when they die. And there's also dry Bowser, so I guess that makes 5. Because there's so little bosses, that kind of makes it repeat a lot, because there's 8 worlds and then 8 special worlds, so there's 16 worlds in total, and they only have 4, but technically 5 bosses. And with only 5 bosses, that is not very good, because it means you'll be repeating them a lot. And what they tried to do to sort of fix that, so they didn't actually have to add that many bosses, is they pretty much just made it so that they have it in different situations. Like the boss rooms are completely different each time, so that's kind of it makes sense. It seems like a pretty cool idea on paper, but you eventually get really tired of just seeing the same bosses over and over and over again. So I think that what they should do is they should introduce some new bosses, and the areas that the bosses are in are completely like isolated. You just get in through a pipe and you get out through a pipe, so they wouldn't actually have to change the levels at all. They just have to recreate those boss rooms and add different bosses in it. And I think that would be a really good idea, because the bosses are really repetitive and they're also super easy. So one of the times where they try to make it challenging is in the World 7 airship. But what happens is it's just 2 bosses at the same time. It's like the room is split in half, and if you're in one half, the boss from the other side can't even get you. So it's really just fighting one boss and then the other. So I feel like they can make that a lot more challenging, and they can do different things by just making the bosses a bit harder, so it's more of a reward to actually complete them instead of just kind of another level. So now on to the next section of the video, which is going to be some problems that they might have. So with the Nintendo Switch, you're going to be playing it through your speakers that are probably better quality than 3DS speakers, obviously. So that's why I think they should make the music even better. What they did in 3D World is they made this song called Super Blockland, and I'll compare that to the 3D Land version, and you'll definitely be able to tell a difference. I feel like if they were going to do something like that in Super Mario 3D Land Deluxe, then that would actually that would make the quality so much better, because if you're playing on your TV, you probably want like the sound to actually sound like really good, and the 3DS speakers, I don't think they're that high quality. So something that really annoys me about the controls in this game are that I have so many different jumps, but you never need them. You can just use a regular jump, and so I feel like in the 3D Land port to Switch, they should definitely fix this and make it so the jumps actually have a difference, because what I'd like to have is when you do a long jump, that just makes you go way further than the regular jump, but like right now, it goes pretty much the same distance, which is, I think it's a problem. So they should make it so the long jump goes further, and then you have to do this super complicated flip jump thing. It's like a rolling long jump, and to do that, you have to be running. Then you hit the button to, like the L button to crouch, then you hit Y and B super fast. And so I feel like the long jump should be as long as that jump, and the flip thing should be like crazy, because it's a really hard jump to do. I don't know, they should just make the jumps better, because they're really not useful in 3D Land, which is kind of a problem, and I feel like on the Switch they could make it quite a bit better. Another problem that they would have by putting this game on the Switch is that they wouldn't be able to have a bottom screen, right? So what they would do for where the bottom screen is they'd basically just make 3D World, where the things on the bottom screen on the 3DS are really just the power-up thing. They can put that on the screen in just a little square icon, and that's a really simple solution. They can also put the star coin counter on there, and just everything that was supposed to be on the bottom screen, they can put it on the top screen, because since the Switch's screen is bigger and you can have it on the TV and stuff, they don't need a bottom screen to port this game. It's not essential to the gameplay, as you've seen when they made 3D World. So that's a pretty simple solution. And one other thing that I really like about 3D World, but they didn't do in 3D Land, is that when you try to move the camera in 3D Land using the D-pad, it moves it, but then as soon as you let go of the D-pad, it just goes back to how it was. So in 3D World, you move it and it actually stays, and also you move it using the right stick. So if they could add that in the Switch port, then that would be really good. And I think they pretty much in the Switch port, they just make it more like 3D World, but like 3D World is probably better, so I think that's a good thing. Something that I was thinking of is, well, the 3DS is obviously 3D, so they used that in 3D Land, and it's really the only game where they did use it. They had these bonus rooms and some of these like bonus like cloud areas where you kind of want the 3D on, or else it's sort of an optical illusion and kind of mess with the gameplay. So there's no reason to have these in the Switch port, because it just really confuses the player if there's no even way to turn on 3D. So I feel like if they had that, they'd probably have to change those areas, but all the areas that actually use the 3D are in a separated area, like completely isolated, just like the boss fights. So if they did that, then that wouldn't affect the rest of the game. Same with the boss fights. They could easily just remake those, so it doesn't actually need to use the 3D. So now we kind of know what needs to happen and what we'd like to see in this port. We should see if it's actually going to happen. So I found in a US Gamer article about the Switch ports that it didn't mention 3D Land, which sucks. It mentioned a bunch of other games, but not 3D Land. And I think there's some reasons why that might be, because they've never ported a 3DS game to Switch so far, and they probably are bringing a lot of the 3D Marios over, and 3D Land is the only one on a handheld, so that might be one of the reasons why they won't bring it over. But they actually might bring it over later though. Just because it's not rumored to come out in 2020 doesn't mean it can't come out later. So if Nintendo really wanted to complete all the 3D Mario games, kind of like a library on the Switch, so you could just play all of them remastered, like definitive edition. So if you like 3D Mario, you would get the Switch, you could play everything. If they wanted to do that, then they'd have to bring 3D Land over. So that could be a big enough reason for them to do it, but I don't really think it's too likely, but it still is possible. So yeah, even though it doesn't mention it, they still could do it. So leave a comment down below about what you think about 3D Land, because I find it gets quite a bit of hate, but I actually love this game. I've 100%ed it 2 times. I'm working on a 3rd time right now. So I definitely recommend playing it, and comment what you think about it. If you think it's a good game, tell me what you think. And that's all for this video. Make sure you subscribe and leave a like if you enjoyed this video. This channel is all about first-party Nintendo games, so if you have a Switch and you like the first-party games, be sure to subscribe.